Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to Business Innovators Radio. With me today, I have Alexis Jane, mindset coach. Like, this girl is amazing. I did a call with her last week. It blew my mind. So then, I just had to get her on. The show. Welcome, Alexis.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So today you're going to be talking about understanding and knowing what they want and the action steps to be able to get it.
Yes.
Fantastic. What led you up to doing all of this stuff? How did you find your calling? How did you know that this is what you were born to do?
So I was never really an academic at school, but I loved being really super social. So I went into work and I was working in personal training and hospitality, always been around people. And then I got married, and then I had a breakdown in my marriage, and through that process I found life coaching, in the shortest possible explanation from my journey. And through life coaching I found kinesiology, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and I didn't actually really know that these even existed. I just thought there was psychology, counsellors, and I'd seen quite a few of them, and I wasn't getting the results that I desired. So that's where I found the life coaching. So I went on and studied that, and I was working mainly with people, helping them in the life coaching space. And then I just found a passion for business and just watching women grow businesses and helping them through their mindset hacks and figuring out what was keeping them stuck around their money mindset, around their belief system. Are they worthy? Self-love, self-esteem. And yeah, as we had our conversation last week, I go quite deep into patterning. So what's the pattern that's kept you stuck from moving forward? So when you're in that pattern, you don't really understand that it's actually a pattern or a cycle that's going on, because you're so caught up within that in that moment.
Okay, awesome. Let me ask you this. So I have so many patterns, and I can tell that I've got these patterns holding me back. And I've got good awareness around these patterns. Now, what would be, how do you go from recognizing the patterns to actually being able to clear them and stop them from affecting your actions?
So first of all, understanding and knowing what your pattern is. So if you're not sure what your pattern is or what your cycle is, one awesome activity or tool to use is doing a brain dump and journaling it out. So getting all the surface noise out. And when you're continually doing that on a daily basis, you start seeing what your pattern is, and you can't start seeing your reoccurring thoughts that keep coming up. And then once you actually know what the thought process is, how would you rather be living life opposed to having that thought process? So for instance, if your main thought process is around lack of money or lack of clients coming through into your business, well, what has to happen for that to be a different mindset? And so let's go with lack of money. So if you've got lack of money coming into your bank account, if your thought process is lack of money, well, lack of money and scarcity is going to continue showing up. So you want to start moving inch by inch to Well, we're being grateful and thankful for the things that you've already got in your life. So there's money everywhere all the time. So if you're looking and sitting in your house, if you've got a TV, well, that was created and bought by money. So being thankful that you have a TV, or thankful that you actually have a house to live in. And so once you start becoming thankful for the things that you've already got, more things start to show up in your life. And if it's a deep-seated belief around the lack of money, it does take time to switch and change that mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Because I think like very few people are aware to start with. It can be so hard to figure out our own patterns because we're living it. So sometimes, sometimes it takes somebody else to figure it out. And I do a lot of journaling as well. I think it's great. Sometimes things will come out in my journaling and I'll go, what the hell is that? So it's really interesting. Yeah. So going back to the title of this, understanding and knowing what you want to do and the action steps to get it. Would that be the same, like for somebody who's not clear around what they actually want? Would that process be the same? Because I mean, I know I found it in the past quite difficult to figure out whether I want something because I actually want it and it's real, or whether it's conditioned into me. Does that make sense?
Yes, that totally makes sense. So going to the topic, so one thing that I find with a lot of my clients when I first start working with them is asking them what do they want. And we're conditioned, and 95% of the time I don't know what I want. And then I'll ask, so if you were to know what you want, what would that be? And then they start rambling on the things that they actually want. But because we're conditioned to say, I don't know, and it's the confidence behind what it is that you want. So if you say that you want to have $1 million business, and that's what you originally first want to say, but you put up a blocker in front of that going, if I say that I want $1 million business, what's the judgment that I'm going to get on the back end of that? What are they going to think of me? And it's around having the confidence behind what it is that you want to be able to go and do the aligned action to get there. So the steps that I take my clients through, these are the steps that you can take yourself through to really uncover what it is that you truly desire and you want. So you want to ask yourself, where do you want to live? Like, what kind of home do you want to be living in? What kind of area do you want to be living in? Who do you want to be hanging out with? So increasing the environment that you're living around. So who do you want to be listening to on the radio or on podcasts? And who is it that you need to become to live the life that you want to have? And really owning it and being comfortable and confident to own who that person is that you want to step into.
Amazing. And it's so true, isn't it? Like, before we get what we want, we need to become that person first.
Yep. And to become that person, what are the action steps that you need to take to align yourself to become that? And that all becomes around belief. And my clients struggle with, who do you need to become? So how do you need to stand now with your shoulders back, standing up straight, and having a presence about you when you walk into a room? What clothes are you wearing now? Are you doing your hair, your makeup? What are the things how are you presenting yourself when you walk out of the house? How are you presenting yourself in business or in your job, depending on what it is that you actually want? Because some people don't want to have a business. They want to continue working for somebody, but climb the corporate ladder or climb that business and Everyone's got different dreams and desires, but when you're stepping into who do you need to become, what does that look like? And it doesn't necessarily mean going out and buying a whole new wardrobe. It's utilizing what you've got and being comfortable and confident to do something that's a little bit different from what you've been doing in the past.
Interesting. Okay, so how do they know? So from there, how would they know what action they need to take from there? So they figured out who they need to become. So how they need to. I guess is it looking at the world? It's looking at the world a different way, isn't it? It's getting into that.
It's looking at the world in a different way, but it's also going internal to your inner world. And when you go into your inner world, there's lots of beliefs that start to pop up and there's lots of blocks that start to present themselves. But there's also things, so once you start actually knowing who you are, the universe, God, spirit, a higher self, whatever you choose to call it, will start presenting challenges or things to come up that you need to work through that are going to help you move to the next level. So the more that you're doing the inner work, you're creating more space for yourself for goodness to come in. But it's how you choose to move through those. So with journaling's an amazing tool. So doing a brain dump to get all of the noise out, but then asking yourself a conscious question. And the conscious question is, how do I want to show up for myself today? And how do I want to show up as being that new version of myself? What has to happen? So when you ask yourself those questions after you've done a brain dump, things just start to flow through that you didn't even know were deep inside to come out to answer that question for yourself. And once you actually know who you want to become, you want to write a statement of what your dream life actually looks like. What does your dream life now look like? What does it feel like? And you want to start believing that it can actually happen. Because when you look around, there's lots of people out there that are doing things that you want to be doing. So if they can do it, you can do it as well.
Yeah, completely. I love that. That's awesome. So they figure out exactly what it is that they want to do with the journaling and everything, and then it goes to their beliefs of figuring out who they need to become and what beliefs go along with that, and then start living by those and figuring out exactly what their dream life is, what it looks like and what it feels like.
Yeah. And really having trust and faith that it can happen. And when you start having a burning desire for the things that you really actually truly deeply want, and this is something that I never really understood when I first heard it. So if this is the first time that you're hearing about a burning desire or trust or faith and visualization, because what happens is if you start to, as you're going through this process, you start understanding exactly who you want to become and what you want. But when you start to visualize it, if you have never imagined or if you've never created wealth before and you want to start creating more wealth for yourself, when you start to visualize and feel it, it can be a little bit tricky and hard to begin with because you've never felt that sensation before. You don't actually know what that actually feels like because you've never been there. So it's taking the small steps into feeling into what it would be to have, say, an additional $500 a month, $1,000 a month. What would that feel like and what would that look like for you? So I know for myself, when I first started doing this, $1 million to visualize and feel into was just too big for me. But $100,000 was something that I could get a grasp on to move through, to feel what that would feel like, to see what that looked like, because I know people in my world who earn that amount of money, that are doing those things. So modeling and watching what they're doing. And then as you start to grow and you start to know what that feeling is, you can increase your money mindset, you can increase your money thermometer to going to that higher level, but you've got to start it somewhere. And if your gap's too big, there's too much of a gap to bridge. So you want to do small increments. And as you're going up, that's when you can start feeling into, and you can start seeing your shift and change, because it's not overwhelming, because it's a smaller bridge to gap, and then you increase that bridge.
That makes perfect sense. I noticed a pattern in myself actually this week, and the pattern is I set big goals. I set big, scary goals, but I noticed that I have this pattern, and it's I set myself a big, scary goal, and then I start sabotaging, and I never realized I did it until this week. So do you think that could be why? Do you think maybe I'm setting a goal that's just so big that I'm not believing enough that I can get there? And so I just sabotage?
Yeah. And I can totally relate to that, because I've done that before as well. And that's why when I worked out to smallen the goal, so you can have those. So having that big, huge, scary goal is awesome, but then you want to chunk it back. So what has to happen? So what has to happen before that goal has happened? And so it's chunking it back down and going, okay, well, what are the aligned daily actions that I have to take to get to that point?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then visualize into what that big vision is all the time. And I heard this the other day, and the way that it was explained, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So we talk about in marketing or in sales that there needs to be 7 to 12 touch points before someone knows, likes, and trusts you and will invest in working with you or purchase your product. With the digital world the way that it is now, I think it's a little bit more, but if we go back to 7 to 12, and it's the same with what it is that you desire that you want to have. So if you're seeing, so McDonald's is always in front of you somewhere. They're either got a poster, they've got an ad, they're on the radio, they're everywhere. And you're like, oh, it's just there. Or Coca-Cola, like they're everywhere. But when you're doing your own goals, you should be marketing to yourself every day what your goals are, all day, every day, feeling into it, visualizing, talking about it. So you want to be having those 7 to 12 touch points within yourself around the goals that you want to be achieving. So you want to, when you know what your big scary goal is, write it down on a piece of paper or a card and have it on you all the time, or have it in your notes on your phone and put an alarm on for every hour that you're awake to feel into and visualize it. It can, all you need to do is 1 to 2 minutes every hour, feeling into it and going and reconnecting yourself to that goal. So then it doesn't seem so big and scary because you're doing it all the time. And your subconscious doesn't know what's real and what's not real. So the more that you feel into it and you visualize it and you see it and you start acting as if, it starts to show up a lot faster, and the universe will start pulling that plan together for you, and things will start showing up a lot faster.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, that has been absolutely full of gold. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
We've got a little part of the show now to finish off. A part of the show that I call Get in the Bin. And this, Alexis, is where you get to choose one business idea or practice, something that drives you mad, something that drives you insane, something you want to get rid of today, and you have the power to do that. What are you going to throw in the bin?
What am I going to throw in the bin? The first thing that came to my mind was technology. But we really need it.
It's a love-hate sort of thing, isn't it? It's like we'd be screwed without it, but
Yep.
I'm really not sure if we should throw technology in the bin, but it's done. It's done. It's in the bin. It's in the bin. What's happened? Right, if I wake up in the morning and there's literally no technology and I can't do my work, there's going to be trouble.
I know. It's my whole business is all online. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I'm learning to have a more love relationship with it.
I totally get that. I'm not techie at all. I completely get it. Well, I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not, but technology's in the bin. Alexis, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook at Alexis Jane, and you can find me on Instagram at the Alexis Jane.
Amazing. Thank you so much again. And to everyone listening, always remember you weren't born to be ordinary, you were born to shine.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.